This is going to sound like so much hate, and I swear it's not.
Welcome to the Warner Brothas Podcast, where we bet heavy on Angel Reese and she doesn't come through. My name is Keenan, joined by another upset Warner brother and Kyle, joined by Timmy Gray. Kyle, how you feel? I just want to how are we feeling about Angel? I'll give you a minute.
Come on, this girl gets double-doubles in her sleep, and she's stuck on 7. I think she got fouled on a shot attempt, about 2 minutes ago, and they didn't give it to her. But I'm more disappointed with Teresa Witherspoon's coaching. We could talk WNBA another day, and I could go off on Teresa Witherspoon because I've seen a few different things coaching-wise, and I'm pretty disappointed in Sky are about to lose, and Shorty is definitely not getting her double-double.
No.
Disappointing, but hey, just some degenerate moments from me, I guess, going this hard on a Wednesday WNBA.
Hey, Kyle, I'm just saying I bet WNBA about every single night. Timmy, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you ready, Timmy?
I'm ready for football.
Kyle, are you ready?
I'm so ready. We are 8 days away. Let's intro this properly. This is the beginning of our NFL prediction show. In years past, this is now, I believe, our 5th year straight of doing this. Could be wrong. I don't know if we we must have done 2019 season predictions. So I believe this is our 5th year, if not at the least, definitely our 4th year of doing predictions. We would normally do a full show of it, and we are breaking it up for y'all. It's going to be, I think, more digestible for the listener, but also I think a little more fun for us. I think we can really get our shit off when it comes to these NFL divisions, these teams, all of our thoughts, maybe some takes, some bold predictions, all that. And we're going to start tonight with the AFC East. We'll eventually transition to the AFC West. I cannot wait. It's almost Christmas time, boys. It's almost here. Yep. Christmas in September is almost here, so I cannot wait.
All righty. So without further ado, AFC East.
Timmy. I can hardly see Tim.
No, hey, it doesn't matter. We'll all see it after.
It's all about the audio.
He does look like he's in the fog. Right? It's all about the audio. The visuals come through afterwards, but he does look like he's in the fog right now. Like he's just took a shower and it's just steamy. But anyways, Timmy, it's on you.
Like I believe it's the computer going downhill. I think the camera's just messing up. But
hey, it's okay.
Let's do this, fellas. Let's go in order of the divisions last year. So let's start with the Buffalo Bills.
Are we just going to read through our do you want to just read through your 4 picks, like your teams, and then are we going each team?
Let's go team by team.
Okay.
So let's start with Tim, let's give us your prognosis, your prediction, your view on what the Buffalo Bills will be this season.
I think we're going to see a very different Buffalo Bills team. I don't think we're going to see a super pass-heavy Buffalo Bills team. I think they're going to change it up. They're going to come out running. Maybe that means a lot more designed runs for Josh Allen. I think they're still going to succeed. They're still going to be a powerhouse. I got them at 12-5, winning their division. Spoiler alert, but I think they're going to be a great team no matter what. I love James Cook. I took him in our fantasy draft. I really do. So I think they're going to get there. I think Kincaid could have an amazing year. Offensively, I have no worries about this team at all. If there's any worries, it's actually defensively. But usually they play up to standard. So I'm not too worried about the Bills. I think they'll bounce back and just be as good as they were last year. So
12 wins.
Kyle, how do you feel?
To that?
Oh, you want me to respond? Okay. I'm very similar. I have them 11-6. I also, spoiler alert, have them winning the division as well. I think really a lot of the points that Timmy makes, I kind of echoed that. We're going to see the second half of the season, what they did last year. We're going to see a lot more of that. I think Josh Allen's going to use his legs more. He's going to be great, obviously, on third down. Dalton Kincaid could have a breakout season. You've got James Cook, who ran very well last season, and I think that's going to continue. Defensively, they are healthier, even though they did lose multiple pieces. They lost Tre'Davious White. They lost, I believe, both safeties in Jordan Poyer. But the Bills, naturally, they play well defensively. You've got a defensive-minded head coach in Sean McDermott. So the defense should be formidable. As long as they can keep games within 24, even 27 points, Josh Allen should be able to get enough done. So I have them 11-6 winning the division. I echo all of Timmy's sentiments.
I think I agree with you guys. Overall, I do think this team, I think their ceiling is 11 wins. I actually have them pegged at 10-7 right now. They do have a pretty tough schedule, which we saw last year. They were able to go through that gauntlet late last year. With, I think some of us here even thought they might not make the playoffs due to their injuries, due to their schedule. I think it was weeks maybe 13 through 18 last year, or maybe 12 through 17, something like that. But they had a very rough stretch. They have a similar stretch this year, honestly, from the middle of the season on. You have to have questions about their defense as far as health, with Milano going down. Like you said, losing both safeties, the depth might not be there, or at least the high-end talent might not be there. They probably actually have more depth. So, that's going to be what kind of makes and breaks their season, because I'm not worried about their offense either. I liked how they looked when they started to go more to a power run game last year. I think it suits them very well. Ultimately, again, 10-7, I think it's solid. I think they can get to 11-12, but I think their schedule is much tougher than those in the AFC East, namely the Jets. Jets have a pretty easy schedule, and we'll talk about them soon. And, they'll have the 2 games versus Miami. I think they got one early. I actually think they're week 2 at Miami on a Thursday night, and then I think they get Miami maybe week 12, something like that, somewhere in that range. So they're a very interesting team to me. I can see a world where they, maybe they only get to 8 wins. I don't expect it, though. That would have to be their absolute worst-case scenario. They are well-coached. I do not have them winning the division, but I do, again, have them at 10-7. So high expectations for them as far as, getting to the playoffs, and then we'll see from there. But I don't see a divisional win, and I do not see, a home playoff game necessarily. But we'll see how it shakes out. I got them, this is more of a barometer for them, really. And with their schedule, that's where it shook out for me. I'm wondering why you guys have them at 11-12 wins with the schedule that they have.
They are in a situation where they play, I know they have tough games, but Josh Allen's going to be the best quarterback on the field 98% of the time, except for when they play the Bengals or they play the Chiefs. Other than that, he's the best quarterback on every field he'll step on. Will he play to that standard we know that he turns the ball over sometimes at a high rate, but he also scores the ball more than anybody else in the league. So I think when you have a guy like that who can make clutch plays down the stretch defensively, they can get timely stops. They'll need a little bit more out of Ed Oliver this year. They'll need Rasul Douglas at cornerback. We'll see what he can be, because normally he's a slot. We see him outside, see how he'll be. But overall, I think the Bills in tough games, they've been in every moment other than obviously the Super Bowl. So I don't have them faltering.
Their season for sure. Tim, what about you?
Coming down to it, divisionally, I have them at 4-2. They dominate this division. I think the most fit they're going to get is from the Dolphins. So even if they split with them, I think that's it. And then I think the Jets, I trust the Bills more than I trust the Jets, at least offensively. So I'm just going to roll with history repeating itself. They're really good against their own division. They're going to dominate. They're going to get 2 wins, I think, from the Patriots, and I think that's what's going to put them at the 12-win spot. If not, worst case scenario, they're 10-win team. They're right around there. So.
That's fair. I mean, I do think if everything breaks right for them and that defense is, causing turnovers early on and their offense is just, in harmony, which I think it will be. I love how their offense looked last year. I think it made it really simple for Josh Allen. I think they're going to be just fine on offense. Milano, though, is they're probably the most high-end player they have. And for them not to have him until December, it does make you wonder if they suffer more injuries, which they will. They most likely will. If they suffer more injuries on defense, how are they going to survive that? ultimately, again, I think they'll be okay. With you guys having them at 11 and 12 wins respectively, that must mean Josh Allen being in the top 3 MVP discussion, if not winning it all. I mean, I guess we'll get to that more so in awards, but you guys must have him pretty high up in the discussion by the sounds of it.
He'll naturally be in your top 5 every year, but I don't.
For sure.
But so, I mean, he would be top 5, top 6 to not give anything away. Roughly top 5,
Gotcha.
top 6.
I feel the same exact way. Like, no matter what, he's going to finish somewhere up there. He might be 3, and I feel like in a lot of other years, he probably is like right around 3. Like last year, I'm pretty sure he finished 2nd, even though like Dak probably should have been ahead of him. So he's done it plenty of times. I don't think it's scary to say that he's going to do it again. So
for sure. I think as the years go by, honestly, I think Josh Allen is going to have a more compelling case for last year's MVP as time goes on. I feel like he was under talked about really last year with that stretch they went through, in that late November, December, January stretch with his stats. Yeah, I think he had a case last year, and I feel like he was really
he was 5th in MVP, but he was the only other person who got a first place vote, which stopped Lamar from getting back his 2 unanimous MVPs. Move on to the Dolphins.
Indeed. This team, I think
Timmy,
I'm most excited to talk about.
I think the Dolphins they're going to be almost identical to what they were last year. They're going to start the season really hot. I think they have a very good case to be that team 6 weeks in that is potentially 6-0. I do think that. But I think they're going to fizzle out down the stretch. They're going to get figured out, and then everything's going to come crumbling around playoff times. So I have them at 10-7, 2nd place in their division. I think they're still a good team, and they're still high-powered offense that can drop 30 on pretty much any team. But it all comes down to Tua in the end of the day, and eventually they figure him out. So.
I echo pretty much everything you just said. I don't know exactly about obviously the 6-0, but I know what you're pointing to there. Out of their first 11 games, they could easily go 8-3, 7-4. But when you end the season at Green Bay, against the Jets, at Houston, against the 49ers, at Cleveland, at the Jets, it's a very tough end. I have them exactly at 10-7, 2nd in the division. And we'll talk about more so if they make the playoffs afterwards. But I have them 10-7, same thing as pretty much as last year. And then they're probably going to have to, if they are in the playoffs, take their show on the road. I won't fully give it away, unless we want to give it away now.
Well, I very much agree with both of you, honestly. It makes for a pretty boring beginning to this podcast because, I think we have the same exact forecast on the Miami Dolphins and by the sounds of Buffalo Bills. I do see this team either ending 10-7, 9-8, or 8-9. I don't see them going below 8-9. I don't necessarily see them going above 10 wins either. Technically they could if everything breaks right. That schedule into even the middle of the season is pretty light, and they're pretty explosive, and they're going to put up points at home. That offense is a well-oiled machine. I would say outside of the Niners, they're probably my favorite offense to watch. I think it's no surprise. We know Tyreek. We know Waddle. We know Tua. They're all going to light it up early. And if they can get a healthy Achane, that's going to be another dimension to their offense on top of Mozart, on top of what could be a good defense, what could be at least a passable defense. Everyone's saying they crushed their draft, so maybe they have depth. They already got injuries. I don't know. This is a team, their biggest hiccup is that they cannot win big games. They cannot play in cold weather at all. And we're kind of all penciling in that that's going to happen, as we should, by the way. They haven't showed us anything otherwise. They've played teams close at least, namely that Dallas game late last year. But they never seem to get it done, right? And then on top of that, as Keenan said, that last 8-game stretch is brutal. Like, there's no reason why they couldn't go, 1-7 in their last 8. I don't think that'll happen, but they really got to prove it to us. Ultimately, I got them at 9-8. And that will be 3rd in the division. I think, obviously, I do not have the Pats 1st in the division. So, spoiler alert here, I got the Jets 1st. And we can segue right into them unless you want to keep talking Dolphins. Is there anything?
Nope.
I do have quick questions here. Is there any hope at all? Like, do you guys see any chance of Tua, of Mike McDaniel, like any sort of glimpse of positivity that they could win big games, that they could turn it around this year, that it could be different? Obviously, your predictions don't reflect that, but what world do you see that it would have to happen? Would it have to be injuries, or do they outright just have to do it? Or would it have to be injuries to other squads?
It would have to be leaning on the run game in those kind of moments, getting good line push offensively. And defensively, they would have to make sure they stay in games, and Tua would have to make plays late in games. And he's shown the capabilities of doing it every now and again, but we've also seen him throw picks. We've also seen him not complete fourth downs. We've seen him not do the greatest of jobs. I mean, they should have clinched the division last year against the Bills, but they kind of choked that game away towards the end of it. So, I mean, it would have to come down. Really, can the defense overperform? Can they actually stick to the run game? And Tua, can you be good on third downs? Can you be good on late game drives? And I don't fully have confidence in any. I mean, they have confidence in the run, just will they stick to it? And I don't have confidence really in the other two.
I can see a world where it does happen. Like, I think if they win this division, then Tua is going to be 1 or 2 in MVP. And I can see a world where that happens, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think we're going to get a very similar year to last year with Tua, where he has some big games, some big 300-yard passing games and a bunch of touchdowns. But then we also see the games where he kind of just folds and lets the team down. If he was in the MVP talks, it would have to be they started out so hot. They put up 21 points in the first, and then they ran the clock out in the second, and they win a bunch of games because of that. And he doesn't have to make those big plays like Keenan was saying at the end of games. If they can put him in a situation like that, he can be in the MVP. They can win a bunch of games. I don't think it's going to happen, but that's exactly how it would have to happen.
It'd have to look like the 49ers, where the 49ers, I mean, not that Brock Purdy's shown that he can make plays in bigger games, so I don't want to take that away, but I'm saying the 49ers a lot of the time in the fourth quarter didn't have games to play, or like midseason, the Dolphins, they didn't really have fully games to play late in the game because they were just up so early, so it'd have to be explosive offense. But hey, so I agree with Timmy, what he's saying.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it really hinges on their defense, because we're assuming right now that they do get off to a hot start. They should. I mean, again, that offense is such a well-oiled machine. They should be okay against those teams, especially at those home games, especially in the warm weather games. They should be all right. There's a world where they're not. And if that's the case, it's all going to fall apart. I don't think that's going to happen. They've got way too many weapons. But if this defense is formidable at all and can steal them a couple games mid-season, we might be in a spot where everything we say is still correct. They still fall in these big games. They still just come up short. They still can't deliver in cold weather. But if they can steal a couple games before that rough stretch, and I mean, they'd really have to go into that stretch at something like 8-2, whatever, a very, leading the division, leading the conference even, for them to really be in that sort of position. But if this defense can hold up and just kind of take pressure off of Tua, there is a world. There is a world. That's all I'm going to say. I don't love that last stretch for them. I still think they could be in the playoffs, but that they're the most fascinating. I don't want to say that because I think the Jets are the most fascinating, but they're the biggest swing team for me in this division on what it could be. Along with the Bills in a way, because again, we talked about their defense and, the talent there, but the Dolphins, they could almost kind of make and break this division when it comes to those three teams. There could be a world where all three make it to the playoffs. But it really does seem like if they falter at all, the other two get through, and the Jets and the Bills. You actually sounds like both of you have them 1 and 2, Bills, Dolphins.
Yep.
Very interesting. So let's go to the Jets. Make the case for me. Why are they not making the playoffs?
I actually have them making the playoffs as the 7th seed. I have them at 10-7 as well. So a dead tie for second and third there. They're both 3-3 in the division, but I think the Dolphins just win the head-to-head matchup or something. I'm not sure. Either way, they're the 7 seed, 10-7. I think they're going to succeed. I think their defense is still going to be great. I think they still have superstars, and I think we're going to see a real breakout season for Garrett Wilson this year. I'm worried a little bit about Rodgers just because we haven't seen him play at an MVP level in over 2 years now. So that's hard to be like, let's bank on winning the division with the Jets with that. Last year I was really high on them, but that was just 1 year removed from being an MVP. Now it's 2 years. So I'm a little bit lower this year than I was last year.
Got you.
I have them missing the playoffs at 9-8. I do think that I do understand the people because they have an easier schedule, especially early on. You've got the Titans, you got the Patriots, you got Denver, and they face some tough teams. Obviously, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Houston, Arizona is going to be more frisky. Same with the Colts. Seahawks are a well-coached team. They've got to go into their last 6 games. They've got to go into their last 6 games 8 wins. 8-9 wins, because their last 6 is versus Seattle, at Miami, at Jacksonville, against the Rams, at Buffalo, against Miami. So that's a very tough end of the season. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is not playing in the preseason. He's barely played any actual snaps with this roster. I think there's going to be a learning curve. Him and Robert Saleh don't seem to really know what's going on there. Like, Robert Saleh is just allowing him to kind of just be like, wherever Aaron is, this kind of thing. I don't know. I don't love the vibe over there, and I don't love Aaron coming off of Achilles at 40. Those are the two things but again, they have the talent. The defense is there. They've built that offensive line. You got Vera Tucker coming back. You've got Tyron Smith. You got Moses. Oh my God, why am I blanking on his last name right now? Moses. I'm sorry, Morgan Moses. Thank you, Morgan Moses. So you've got great tackles, you've got a great guard coming back, and then you've got weapons. So overall, they have the talent and everything to be there. I just think that it's going to be more of a chemistry thing, and in football, we've seen that plenty of times where the chemistry and the kind of things couldn't be off, even though the roster is still very good.
I hear what you're saying. Let me ask both of you this: what is your biggest question about the New York Jets? Keenan, you kind of answered it
coaching.
Fairly. You got
coaching and Aaron Rodgers' health.
For sure. Tim?
I would say offensive coordinator. Hackett, we just haven't seen him cut it without an MVP level Aaron Rodgers. Like, even the last year in Green Bay, it was kind of spotty. I definitely do question the O-line. I know they grade it really high and they say that the moves they've made is good, but until we see it, I can't believe it. It's the same thing with like the Giants. They can tell me that they have a top 10 O-line. Until I see them not give up 5 sacks in a game, I'm not going to believe it. So I do have a little bit of worry about the offensive line.
Mm-hmm. Chemistry matters more in football than really any other sport. Like, obviously, if you have a collection of talent in basketball, at some point the talent's going to be so overwhelming that through a season they're going to probably make it work, and if not the next season, they're absolutely going to make it work. We've seen that with so many teams. If you have a collection of people, if they don't work together, then that team's just very talented, and we've seen plenty of talented teams miss the playoffs before. If we think back to like the 08, I think, or 09 Eagles when they got Nnamdi Asomugha and everybody, and they were supposed to be this juggernaut, and then they were terrible. Or maybe in like 2012 or whatnot, but whatever year that was, Kyle, going.
I would agree with both of you. I mean, Tim's got him in the playoffs. I'll answer Tim first with the OC. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is basically the OC. I do get what you're saying, because Nat Hackett without Aaron Rodgers is just, I don't know. He's a
Josh
shoe salesman.
McDaniels without Tom Brady.
He's a shoe salesman or some shit like that. Like, Hackett's just out of the league without it. So, I mean, we saw how he was as a head coach, right? As far as chemistry, that would be mainly my concern too. Last year, right? That was kind of my thing. How Saleh and Rodgers going to mix. You combine the talent on this team with the schedule, I don't even think they're going to be able to get the bad vibes. I mean, you're catching the Niners at the right time in week 1. Warm weather, you're at San Francisco, right? Then you got the Titans, Patriots, and Broncos back-to-back, and then the Vikings on top of that. Then you get the Bills at home, right? You're really only going to get tested that Bills game and that Niners game those first 5-6 weeks. And again, you're catching the Niners at the right time, especially if they don't have Trent Williams that game. I believe Williams will play. I think he eventually plays. But if for say he does not, he misses week 1, that's advantage Jets right there. That's advantage Jets D-line right there. You can make the case, a strong case, that this is the most talented team on both sides of the ball in the entire league. You combine that with a weak schedule, I don't see a way they go below 9 wins. I actually have them winning the division with 11 wins. They could even get to 12. I don't think it gets to 12. I think you have to be a great team to get to 12. But if you got Saleh basically being a DC, you got Rodgers as the OC, you got enough talent there. Okay, he's got to stay healthy. And really that all hinges on Tyron Smith's health. If he can stay healthy, Rodgers should stay healthy. That line should be okay because, yeah, after that left tackle goes down, in theory, then what do you got? Then you're in real trouble. But they did beef up their biggest weakness. This team went 7-10 in back-to-back years with Zach Wilson. Now you have an actual able-bodied quarterback, even if he is coming off an Achilles injury. I don't have my full playoff team list as of yet, but I do think, again, I mentioned this last time with the Dolphins, I do think there is a case for all three of the Bills, of the Dolphins, of the Jets making it. I got the Jets being the cream of the crop, really just because of their schedule. I don't necessarily think this is the best team in the division, though the talent would say that. I think I would trust the Bills more when it comes to playoff time. But, I mean, what's really not to like about this team? I hate saying that. I mean, obviously, you know, it's well known my thoughts on the New York Jets. But I can't see a world, unless they just lose some of these easy games early, I don't see a world where they don't make the playoffs. I don't see a world where they just falter and then the chemistry comes out. Of course it could. It's the New York Jets. Nothing good ever happens for them. I mean, we could see a world where back-to-back years on Monday Night Football, Aaron Rodgers suffers back-to-back season-ending injuries. Like, that would just be the Jets' luck. I'm not wishing that. I'm not putting that out in the air. But if it was one franchise that was going to happen to, it would be the New York Jets. So other than that, I can't see a world where they do not make the playoffs. And, yeah, I have them winning the division. That might put them in Colts territory because the Colts have more AFC East titles than the Jets, and the Colts aren't even in their division any longer. So, yeah, this should be the year, if any year, for the Jets. And if not, hey, Jets gun Jets. But I do think they get to 11 wins. I do think they win the division. And, yeah, and then it's really on and popping after that if we see them in the playoffs.
Okay. And we don't have to spend much time on this team. Last but not least, the New England Patriots. Timmy.
I was not very big on them last year. You guys definitely were not on board with that. And it came true. I was correct.
100% true.
It was very nice. I think I have them better this year than I predicted last year. I'm a little worried because they still haven't named Drake May the starting quarterback. That would be cool if they finally did that. Like I was telling Kyle all summer, I don't see a world where he's not the starting QB by week 4 or 5. I think realistically he's going to start the season as their starting QB. He's been playing better than Brissett, and Jacoby got hurt in the preseason game. I guess came on his shoulder, has a stinger, whatever it is. I think they're going to just give the nod to May eventually and then let him roll with it. I don't think this team has enough talent to win a lot of games. The best talented player, one of the best they had, they just traded him away. So I just don't think this is their year by any means. It's going to be a tough look for Mayo in his first year, but I got him.
Understatement.
I got him at 5-12, last place. Yeah, I think they can load up and get a nice wide receiver in this year's class. They're going to have a top 6 or 7 pick. So I think this is maybe bright future for next year or the year after that, but this is not their year.
No, not their year at all. Timmy, I have them 5-12 as well. We literally have this entire division the same, other than one game by the Jets, and we both have them as the 3 seed. And that one game for you puts them in the playoffs. But anyways, I think this year for the Patriots, I want to see some flashes. Obviously, defensively, Gerard Mayo, like I know you have a hand in the defense always while Bill Belichick was there, but Bill Belichick was able to take less talented defenses and still make them very talented and still make them good ball hawks. We're going to play sound. We're going to play disciplined. I want to see if we can have that same level of discipline, same level of soundness defensively, so there's not a drop-off from Bill Belichick to Gerard Mayo. Obviously, Bill Belichick is the GOAT defensive coach for sure. Offensively, Drake
coach.
May, if it's GOAT coach, yes. I'm just talking defense, but yes, GOAT coach. Offensively, you have Drake May. If he plays 12 games, 10 games, 16 games, 17 games, however many games, I want to see some games with some flashes. I don't expect a bunch of wins, but I want to see some plays where you're like, okay, that's starting level. Okay, that's definitely starting level plays. A couple games where you walk out of it like, okay, he might have been the best quarterback on the field today. Like, there's games where he can have that opportunity, and I would like to see that happen. And then Jalen Polk, I'd like to see a little something from him. Demario Douglas, can you continue to ascend? Ramondre Stevenson, obviously in the backfield, can we keep that going? And then the offensive line, can we see some camaraderie there? We understand that it's not the most talented, but can we get a little bit of camaraderie there on the offensive line? And then next year, I would like to target getting another tackle and then getting some also wide receiver help for him, like Timmy was talking about in the draft. But 5-12. I want to see flashes, and that's it.
I mean, look, my only thing I want to see this season out of the Patriots is, can Gerard Mayo coach? Does he have a hold on the locker room? Does he have, like, do we just look like a cohesive team? We know we're not a good team. We know we're not a talented team. Can we just be a cohesive team? Can this just look like a semblance of a football team? I actually don't think they're too bad as far as, like, compared to last year's team. I think they might have improved talent-wise a little bit on the offensive side of the ball, not the offensive line. I believe the offensive line is just that. It's offensive. There's no reason to put Drake May behind it at all. I do think by week 6 we do see Drake May, but I wouldn't be mad for them holding him out the whole entire season. There was no reason to risk injury with this guy. We saw in the last preseason game just how bad the offensive line looked. They weren't in sync at all. Penalties, miscues. There's no reason to put a rookie quarterback who you have real expectations for behind this offensive line. And it's unfortunate because this defense is, in my opinion, outside of the defensive line, loaded with talent, especially the secondary. They might have the deepest secondary in the league, arguably. Tons of young talent over there, versatile talent, especially at the safety position. It sucks that they will not have Christian Barmore for at least probably 4 weeks on top of the Judon trade. They had a lot of time without Judon last year, and they really didn't miss a beat. Keen, I agree with you. Gerard Mayo, I mean, look, this is a beloved Patriot who came in right after Teddy Bruschi and did not miss a beat. And if you know what Teddy Bruschi means to Pats fans, and for Gerard Mayo to just pick up on that pretty much since his rookie year, got injured early. His career ended early, and then pretty much, I think, immediately joined our coaching staff and worked his way up to DC. And, had a huge helping hand in the last few years of this defense. I mean, again, our team was trash last year, and the defense overperformed. Mayo had a lot to do with that. Can he hold on to the locker room? Can he motivate his team? This should be a team in theory that, I'll just skip to it. I got him at 5-12 as well. I think they're more likely going to get 3 or 4 wins, but 5 is being hopeful. 6 would be a fucking miracle. If there were 6, that would be, about an average team. I don't think they can get there at all, especially with this schedule. But, man, if they could even get to 5, that's encouraging. And, if we see Drake May, again, if I saw Drake May 2 or 3 games this year, I would be okay with that. I would be okay if we didn't see him. So it would be, again, almost a miracle if this team got to 5. That's wishful thinking for me. I just want to see cohesiveness from this team. I just want to see leadership from Gerard Mayo. And then we can really start to talk about this team next year. And if not, if this team still, we get to week 17 going into the playoffs and this team looks like a disaster, it's not going to be good moving forward at all. So, yeah, just keep Drake May and bubble wrap if they got real plans for him, which they do. But, unless you absolutely have to play him, then you play him. But I believe Jacoby will be starting week 1. I believe Jacoby will probably play at least the first 4 to 6 weeks, but wouldn't mind if it was all 17.
Okay. Well, now moving on to the AFC West, and of course the Kansas City Chiefs.
Let me ask you guys though, who's the player out of the AFC East, out of all 4 teams, that you are most excited to watch? Unanswerable questions that can be answered now, all offseason like that.
Aaron Rodgers.
That's the easy answer, right?
Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is one, and then Tua. You've got your money now. Are you going to take that next step, or are you just who you are? But Aaron Rodgers, that's easy for me. I understand it's a boring answer, but Aaron Rodgers.
Sure.
I think it's Garrett Wilson. There's been just so much hype behind Wilson. Like, he was amazing in college. He came in. He was offensive rookie of the year, and then he had another 1,000-yard season with Zach Wilson. Like, that's an amazing feat already to do that with such terrible quarterback play. I think his ceiling is just so high. So I think if Aaron Rodgers is still good, that we're going to have a lot of fun watching Garrett Wilson dominate. So him or either Breece Hall, but
Yep.
Breece Hall is kind of easy because he's been dominating no matter what. So.
Yep.
Yeah, anything to do with the Jets is the easy answer here, right? Like he said, Aaron Rodgers, like we obviously want to see him really 2 or 3 years removed from a good season. I mean, even his last season in Green Bay was kind of underwhelming. So he's the easy answer. I kind of already said this before, though. Miami is the other sneaky one where I'm like, all right, it's time to put up or shut up, really, for them because they do have tons of talent. They do seemingly have a good head coach, but now they really gotta put it to the test here. They really got to win games that they didn't win, in the past 2 years, because they are an exciting team and they're a capable team, but can they really put it all together? So on top of Rodgers, the Jets experiment, it'll be the Dolphins that I'm really paying attention to this season.
Okay, is there any other things that you want to talk about AFC East-wise, or are we good to move the AFC West?
Let's do it.
Okay. AFC West, Kansas City Chiefs, two-time defending Super Bowl champions. Timmy, how do you think their season plays out?
I think we're going to see a very similar situation. I think offensively they're going to be better, but I think their division is slowly catching up talent-wise. So it's tough. I actually have them dominating their division, but I have them at 11-6, winning the division. I just think we're going to get a similar season to last year. I don't think this team has necessarily gotten better. I think they will iron some stuff out, but I think they're going to be relatively in the same ballpark as they were last year, which could be Super Bowl champions for all we know, three-peat, trifecta, greatest quarterback of all time, stuff like that.
Calm down with that. Calm down with that, Tom.
Dynasty.
Yeah, just right? Dynasty building.
Don't upset. Don't upset
I'll
me.
add to that because I got them at the same exact record. I got them at 11-6. I agree with everything Tim said. This team's going to be really built on defense and running the ball, I think. We saw it all last year. We talked about it all last year. I think they led the league in drops. They led the league in fumbles outside of the quarterback as well. Just all kinds of miscues, and they still won the Super Bowl. That couldn't have been more of a Patriots type season from them. Winning by defense, winning by running the ball,
reminds me
winning
of the
by
2018 run.
Similar to it.
When they beat the Rams in the Super Bowl. Obviously, like the games were a little bit more like the Super Bowl is completely different, but that Patriots team was like, can they do it? Okay, they had a good game. Can they do it? They go on the road to KC and win in overtime, and then it's like, okay, a team that didn't feel like you had business in week 13 won it all. So
for sure.
Similar.
For sure. Yeah. I was completely out on that Chiefs team after that Christmas Day game. But, they actually, though they have tough games, they do have a favorable schedule. It's weird because a lot kind of hinges on that week 1 game. I do wonder, and we'll get to this in totality, especially on Sunday, and we'll know more once we finish this AFC, but a lot hinges on them getting the 1 seed. This whole three-peat could hinge on the 1 seed. Obviously, there's never been a three-peat in NFL history, so they have a lot going against them. But as long as they can keep Travis Kelce healthy, and if they can get real camaraderie in the receiver room with Patrick Mahomes, yeah, this team should be 11 wins and could be, inching towards 12, 13. Though they don't seem like a 12 or 13 win team. Again, I do at least see them getting to 11, which means they should at least, at the worst, if they had a bad season, get to 10. There's obviously no way this team's missing the playoffs unless, Mahomes gets injured. And their defense, they've got a great defense. They got a great DC. So they should be okay. The real question is, will they or won't they three-peat? And, we'll be answering that very soon.
They're my 1 seed. I have them 13-4. This year, I am big, and this is weird. I'm big on vibes this year. And it's like, I understand like there's football and everything else to it, but like the way that people are talking and coming into the offseason, the way they're preparing, and like just this, like how I've been watching more interviews on people and things, and the way Patrick Mahomes is talking, the way he's talking about last season about like, yeah, we got it done. It wasn't fun. We see a behind the back pass already in preseason. Like, I think that this year they are going to aim to just play as loose as possible, and it's going to be, and when they play loose and they play just fun, they are scary. It's when like the Warriors in 15-16, it's like when they're playing loose, Steph's dancing, they're hitting threes, it was almost unbeatable at that point. And I think you're going to see a lot of that from the Chiefs this year. They still have a top 10 defense. They still have a top 10 offensive line. They're going to have a roughly around a top 10-ish run game in totality. I think Isaiah Pacheco is a very good running back, of course. You've got massive speed there in Xavier Worthy and Marquise Brown now. Juju Smith is back. You've got Travis Kelce still there. So I think overall the team is built properly around Patrick Mahomes, and I think Patrick Mahomes is coming out like, one, they're looking at this 3P like, let's go do something that's never been done, and two, Patrick Mahomes is coming out like, I think he's top 3 for MVP. For me, easy. Like, that's not like his lowest ceiling would be 3. That's like how I feel this year.
Quick response to that. It's funny because everything you just described, Keenan, reminds me so much of the Patriots. And this is finally a team that you really can compare to the Patriots. This is the only time I've ever felt this way about a team, because you'll know this very well. The first 4 to 6 weeks for the Pats, especially depending on how their schedule lined up, it was just like, I don't even care how this team looks, just win. Just win, get the divisional games out the way, just win, and then we'll worry about the tough games that are, in that November through January stretch. And that's kind of how I feel about this team. I don't think they're going to – you talk about them being loose, and I see what you mean. You make a very compelling case, but I think they're almost going to kind of play in the games they need to. And then if they got, like the Broncos and Raiders, those type of games this year, I think they're just going to try to get through it, work on some things. That's why I got them inching towards, 11. More so in the 10, even more so than 12 or 13. Granted, if everything hits, then yeah, we are looking at a 12-13 and a team who really has a chance at a 3P. And it's going to be scary if that's the case. But I do think they're going to take it easy, especially in a 17-game season. But I still, like me and Tim, I mean, we got them at 11 wins. That can conceivably be 12. 12 wins to me in a 17-win season is like a 14-win season for me in a 16-game season. So
it's scary to their schedule for the league, because
it's tough,
they
but
start
easy
off
at the same time.
They start off Baltimore, Cincy, Atlanta, Chargers, Saints, 49ers. So obviously you see Baltimore, Cincy, Atlanta, and the 49ers. We'll see how good Atlanta is, and then the Chargers team that plays you tough. That is a tough stretch.
I think,
and then they play Vegas, Tampa. What?
I think they split that part. I think they come out.
I think they're 4-2, 3-3 at that point, like roughly 4-2. I think from that point on, they might run the table. And it's Vegas, it's Tampa, it's Denver. That Buffalo game's going to be really tough. But then it's Carolina, Vegas, the Chargers, Cleveland. We don't know what's going to be going on even at quarterback at that point. And then it's Houston, Pittsburgh, Denver. I think after they could go 3-3 and still get to 13-4. Like they could run the table after that. So like that's where I think they're going to get into such a groove. And Mahomes is going to be like, it's going to be, not that it's going to be exact, but it's going to be like MVP Curry, where he's just doing whatever he wants to on the field, game in, game out.
It's tough, but it's easy. I want to let Tim respond here, but that schedule you just ran through, the second half is definitely lighter, but there's still some sneaky tough wins,
Oh yeah, you've got to come in. You got to come to play like against Pittsburgh and things like that.
But I think that's as easy of a schedule you can get, just because that schedule is so front loaded. Those first 6 games, that's as tough as a top 6 as you're going to get. And then you're going to sprinkled in there towards the end. But go ahead, Tim.
Another thing about all those tough games you've listed off, almost every team has a chip on their shoulder against Patrick Mahomes. They have a reason. He literally eliminated almost all of those teams last year. The Bills, 49ers, and Ravens, he eliminated all of them from playoffs. So I think those are going to be the games that those teams
And Joe Burrow in his last
exactly
one.
when he was healthy. I think those are
Yeah,
all
that's
teams that are going to come out and really want to win that game more than ever, and I think that that's going to be really tough. I don't want to just give him the division. I think there's a good chance that they go, 5-1, 6-0 in their division. But we saw the Raiders play them really tough last year. We saw the Broncos beat them last year. It's not off the table that they don't just run the table from that point on, that they still struggle with a couple of those games, and dropping just one or two puts them right into my range at 11-6 instead of yours at 13-4. So I think it's more likely that they struggle. If they come out of that first 6 games 2-4, they're not going 13-4. There's absolutely no way. And at that point, it's just, that's it. So
I think they at least split that first 6, but I think it's more likely that it's 4-2. You almost have to, they've earned that benefit of the doubt where you say, okay, 4-2. Like they really are in Pat's territory in that regard. But another thing we haven't talked about, I mean, we do like the line. We do like this new receiving core. Hollywood Brown is going to be out though, which might be negated by the fact that you do have that familiarity with Juju. That's even a Pats type move right there. Like bringing back an old receiver that might not have worked out with another team, but is more valuable to your squad. I mean, really the thing is, I mean, what could happen here is, what if Kelsey gets injured?
That's another thing.
Oh, injury. I mean, that takes everything.
Yeah.
That's tough. I mean, injuries you can't plan for. Like I couldn't plan for Rob Gronkowski to get injured with the Patriots,
right.
but like at the same time, it's like something that could happen. And Travis Kelce's injury.
No, we're talking about this all healthy, but I'm saying like this team does get in real trouble here if Kelsey can't make it to, the divisional round, assuming they have a bye.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
If they're playing wild card weekend, I mean, to some degree, you can make the argument they caught lightning in a bottle last year, having to go all 4 rounds, right? Because they didn't have the bye. So they kind of caught lightning in a bottle. Even winning that 49ers game, getting Dre Greenlaw injured on the sideline. I mean, we don't have to run through it, but I mean, they definitely caught some breaks, which every team does when you win a championship. I'm not saying they were lucky, but I am saying, man, to get that 2 years in a row and to be the first team to three-peat in a 17-game season, it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot, but I do think they're going to have an outstanding chance at it, like a real chance at it. So going to be fascinating.
Oh yeah, they have
they
have like one of the real legitimate chances. Like the Broncos won 2 in a row, but John Elway retired, and like so like if you go through, they have one of the real legitimate chances at actually doing such a thing. Last point I'll make, and then Timmy, you could talk. Schedule wise, I think they beat Atlanta the Chargers. I think they beat Atlanta Chargers in New Orleans. I was like, Tim, you can go, but I think they beat Atlanta, the Chargers, and the Saints, and then if they even go 1-2 against the Ravens, Cincinnati, and the 49ers, they're 4-2. If they go 0-3, they're still 3-3. Obviously, they could lose one of those, but I think at worst they're 3-3. If not, I think 4-2, and then from there it's lights out.
I do think
you have nothing else we can move.
I do think with the Chiefs, I think that they're gonna limit Kelsey. I don't think they want him being out on the field, being the number one target. I think they've made that clear by bringing in Marquise Brown and then going to get Juju when he got hurt and drafting a wide receiver. I think they want to prioritize the wide receiver room with the targets, and they want Kelsey to be healthy for that playoff run, or if they need him to push into the playoffs as a 1 seed. So I think the first 6 weeks, we're not going to see vintage Kelsey. We're not going to see, 100 yards and a touchdown. That's not going to be what we're getting. I think we're going to more likely see like 5 targets a game, which could still be very valuable, but I just don't think it's going to be as heavy as it has been recently. But if you want me to go.
And Tim, last thing I was going to say, the case you just made about Kelsey, which again, I completely agree with, that gives credence to them starting 2-4 rather than 3-3, rather than 4-2. If they're really trying to work out the kinks in that receiver room, or if that camaraderie is not there, that very well could just cost them some games. A wrong route here, a drop pass here. So again, ultimately, I think we know they're going to be fine. But if it was ever going to be a hiccup for them, it's in that first 6 games, in that toughest part of the schedule. Again, by week 9, 10. they probably do have it all figured out. Then you probably do have Kelsey playing a little harder. But you're right. They're going to basically put Kelsey in bubble wrap, and it's really going to be dependent on the wide receivers. And if they do have that connection, especially early, yeah, it's lookout league. But I do think there's going to be some kinks along the way. So, yeah, that was a great point.
All right, so we'll move on actually to the Las Vegas Raiders. Timmy, whenever you are ready.
I think this is going to be one of the most surprising teams this year. I have bought in to Antonio Pierce. I think he's going to be the next up-and-coming coach. It's always hard to kind of jump on the bandwagon. Every team that has a good coach had a rookie coach at some point. He was an amazing coach last year, got a lot more wins than they were expected to. I think this defense is going to be great, and I think this team is going to run the ball very successfully. I have them missing the playoffs at 9-8. I have them winning a lot more games than people think. So this is one of my boldest teams on here. There are definitely some other bold takes in other divisions we'll have to get into in other episodes, but I think the Raiders are going to be a very solid team, and I think they got a good coach.
Okay.
I was not prepared for that, personally.
I have them 6-11. I think that they've got some solid pieces. Don't love Gardner, but again, we saw Gardner take a Colts team to about 9-8 last season too, so he's definitely a worthy starting quarterback in the league, especially as a backup to kind of starter level. They just happen to have they have a tougher schedule than you would think, especially right around their bye. They see Pittsburgh, the Rams, Kansas City, Cincinnati, Miami, Denver, Kansas City, Tampa, Atlanta, Jacksonville. That's a straight stretch. Yikes. Maybe 2
I got
wins.
4.
Maybe. All right, I'm going to quickly go through this. I'll give them the Pittsburgh game. They lose to the Rams, lose to the Chiefs, lose to the Cincinnati Bengals. They're coming off a bye week. They're at Miami, though, so they lose to Miami. They beat Denver, so that's 2. Lose to Kansas City, 3. Lose to Kansas City. They split either with Tampa or Atlanta, and then they lose to Jacksonville. So I have them at 3 wins.
I think they'll beat Jacksonville. Rob. I think they can beat Atlanta, and I think they split with the Chiefs. I have them. That's the only Chiefs divisional loss is with the Raiders this year. That's what I think.
Me at that point in the season, it's so. I think the Chiefs are going to be on.
They're gonna win the early one.
I truly think this is gonna. I truly think this is gonna look like a Pats classic 14-2 season where you're like, man, they just look really good, and it's gonna come down to can somebody in the playoffs stop them or not. It's gonna be. We get to the AFC Championship game probably, and we'll go from there. Figure it out. So, but Raiders 6-11. I think they're solid. I think they're going to be well coached. You're going to see some good quality games out of them. They'll lose some. They have a tough schedule. I don't know much else.
I mean, I was not prepared to have an in-depth talk about the Las Vegas Raiders today. I still have trouble calling them the Las Vegas Raiders. Still want to call them either LA or Oakland, but man, I think even Keenan's being generous at 6 wins. I had a tough time getting this team to 4 wins. I think they ultimately get to 4. I would not be surprised to see this as a 3-win team. And that sounds crazy because I had the Pats at 5, really like for no reason other than hope. And this team for sure has more talent than the Pats. You got to like their defense. You got to like their offensive line. Outside of that, I mean, I'm on record. Me and Tim have had conversations back when Tim was at NVU. Right, David was working out, and me and Tim would be like, you know what? Like, I kind of like Gardner Minshew more than most people. Like, we had for sure those conversations. I do not like him in this role at all. I like him more like if he was a backup for Kansas City. I like him more in that backup role last year with the Colts. I don't think you're going to get anything good out of him this year with with Vegas. Love Antonio Pierce as a player. Loved him as an analyst on ESPN. Loved him as a coach last year, as an interim coach, and I think he's going to be a good coach moving forward. I do hope he succeeds. I genuinely like Antonio Pierce. I don't think this season's going to be it, though. You talk about vibes. I can't imagine Devontae Adams is going to be happy. I mean, you go from Aaron Rodgers to Derek Carr to fucking Jimmy G to now Gardner Minshew. Like it's
Tom
not gonna
Brady,
happen.
Week 8.
Tom Brady. it might happen. It might happen. Oh shit, that would be crazy. That would be crazy. Oh man, that got
They'll
me
make the
hyped for
playoffs
bold
then.
predictions now. But
Don't make the playoffs then.
I think it's more likely that Devontae Adams gets traded than he has, a 1,500-yard, 8-touchdown season with Gardner Minshew. I do
like Devontae though. I like his vibe this year. I told you I'm big on vibes.
The vibes are great. The vibes are always great coming out of training camp. But I mean, Antonio Pierce literally
shout out to Club Shay Shay.
Antonio Pierce literally said after I think it was their second preseason game, he said something like, "Man, I wish someone would play good at the quarterback position. We saw nothing from the quarterback position tonight," and then named Gardner Minshew the starter the next day. So you want to talk about vibes? I just don't see it. I don't see it with this team at all. I see this as a bridge year. I see Gardner Minshew getting attacked, even though they do have an offensive line. I see Gardner Minshew getting injured and us seeing some AOC. Not that AOC, Aiden O'Connell. We'll see him. I just see a mess. I see a mess all over. And it sucks because I think if they did prioritize the QB position at all, went out and got somebody other than Gardner Minshew, or even got Minshew as their backup, because O'Connell looked okay last year, but what were they really playing for? If they prioritized the QB, I think they would have been a player in this position, in this division, due to the talent they have on both sides of the ball. But I don't see it. I really don't see it. I got them at 4-13, and that's being nice. That's being nice. But I mean, I can't wait to see how this progresses. I did not expect him to have
just to rebuttal a little bit. I'll keep it short, but
sure, yeah.
I think the Raiders right now are a better football team than the Colts were last year. Other than the running back position, I think they are better in every single position. They have a better wide receiver. They have two better tight ends.
Are they better coaching?
That's what I believe. Antonio Pierce is going to prove that he is a better coach. I think their wide receiver too. I like Jacoby Myers. He was very good to start the season last year. I think this defense is going to be phenomenal. Max Crosby could be Defensive Player of the Year. If all these things are true, they are better than the Colts were last year, and the Colts were 9-8, right on the fringe of the playoffs. So that's my reasoning. That's my rebuttal.
But they have
better than Shane Steichen's kind of. It's a lot. Shane's been it's a lot. Okay.
I do have a question. Who is the Raiders OC?
Couldn't tell you. They're going to run the football 30 times a game. I'm telling you, they don't need an offensive coordinator when he just calls power right. Power 7.
Yes, they got Luke Getsy. Luke Getsy.
Okay.
Luke
And
Getsy. There we go.
And who's their starting running back?
Zamir White.
Refresh my memory.
He's the one who took over for Josh Jacobs last year, and I think for the last almost month and a half of the season, he was like phenomenal. I believe he was like the RB9 in fantasy because he was just churning out 5 yards per carry for like 6 games straight. I believe in him.
It was the last 4 weeks of the season. He went 17 for 69 and a touch, 22 for $145, 20 for 71, 25 for 112.
That is.
It's the last 4 weeks.
That is good enough.
That was where he really came in.
I don't see it. I don't see it.
I have the vision.
We'll revisit.
I like backup Minshew. I like spot starter Minshew. I do not like full-time starter Minshew. I mean, shouts to Minshew Mania. Shouts to everything that, he can provide. He's definitely a good vibes type of guy. But, I mean, you can't tell me this is an upgrade from Jimmy G. I don't see it that way. And if you're saying it's going to be run heavy, yes, I mean, that could happen. That could happen. It would have to be, a great run game on top of a great defense, on top of just expert coaching for them to get to 9-8. And then on top of that, Minshew being like a plus game manager, like a good game manager on top of being able to make good throws consistently to Jacoby, to Devontae. I don't know. I cannot wait to see how this unfolds. I think this is going to be a terrible team. I think the vibes are going to be just atrocious by the time we get to week 4 and 5. But hey, could be wrong. There's always that one team, and it could be the Raiders. So
There's like 6 or 7 new playoff teams and new good teams every year, so that
And
could
I
be
don't
one
even
of
have
them.
them as a playoff
If we have
team. I have them missing right at the 9.
If we don't
That's
have
some
anything
confidence.
else, we can move on to the Denver Broncos. I hope we don't have much to talk about here, but like we might. Go,
Nope.
Timmy.
This team is bad. This team is really, really bad. I think after this year, people are going to start calling Sean Payton a fraud, a product of Drew Brees, maybe, because
You ain't gotta wait.
yeah, that's true.
There's already people who
We
strongly
haven't
believe that.
seen a lot of success without Brees, and this team is like his team. They have cut almost every player that was not drafted or signed by him. So if this team does not work, it's completely on Sean Payton at this point. And then this looks like even worse of a situation for the Denver Broncos. Like, get rid of the Russell Wilson. They're still paying him $100+ million these next 2 years. They also traded to get Sean Payton, so that is going to look terrible. I have them 3-14. They're barely going to win. They're barely going to compete. Bo Nix, I think we're going to see a Kenny Pickett situation where it's just not successful. This is going to be a rotating issue now for like 3 years, and then we see him as a backup, a future backup. Sorry, but I know there's a lot of believers in Bo Nix. I'm not one of them.
Nope. 3-14, co-signing it, stamp it right there with you. I think this team is bad. They're not good. There's nothing about this team that I like other than like Sean Payton's made them into a pretty solid offensive line. That's pretty cool. That's fun. Other than that, I think they're going to be bad, and I think we'll probably see Bo Nix turn into Josh Rosen, aka first-round pick, 1-year starter, turn around, get the number 1 pick, and actually get somebody. That I don't have anything else with this Bronco team.
So I have them being a 5 or 6 win team. I have them more in the vein that Keenan's got the Raiders in. I like you said, they do have a good offensive line. This is still a Sean Payton coach team. I mean,
5 or 6.
I'll get to that. We'll say 5. Well, I got the Raiders at 4, so give them 6. Give them 6. So here's my thing. I don't really know much about college quarterbacks. What I do know about Bo Nix is that he played a ton of football at a variety of different schools, different systems, and he's 24 years old. He's on the older side of the coin when it comes to quarterbacks. So he's going to be more mature. I expect him to, I don't know if he's going to be explosive or not. I know none of that. But I do think he'll be able to be competent. It does say something that Sean Payton really wanted him to be the QB. Sean Payton, if nothing else, can scheme up an offense. They don't have a ton of talent compared to last year. But again, they got to 8-9 last year, and last year was a disaster. They gave up 73 points to the Dolphins last year, and they still got to 8-9. That was even sitting Russ some games. Still got to 8-9. This defense is terrible, but it's still Sean Payton. He still can get you 6 wins. You can't say that about many coaches. I certainly have more faith in him than Antonio Pierce. Again, I want Antonio Pierce to do well, but if you're giving me Sean Payton and a kind of a ragtag team, but a quarterback with some potential, a quarterback that looks like he could have a handle on their offense, I'm going to take that over whatever the hell's going on with Las Vegas. Granted, again, Vegas certainly has more talent, but if it came down to Bo Nix or Minshew at this point, I'd probably take Bo Nix. So that's my case for them getting to 5 or 6 wins. It's not like we're talking about, a playoff team here. I have no belief in this team, but I do like their schedule a little bit more than the Raiders. So that's really where I end up with them getting 5 or 6 wins. And I think Nix is going to be okay. I think he can at least, in these games that are going to be close, because they somehow will be in close games. It's any given Sunday in the NFL. I think he's going to be able to do a little more than Gardner Minshew and whatever the hell, again, is going on in Vegas. So,
okay, we're not rebuttaling that. We're gonna let that.
No rebuttal. I want to hear the rebuttal.
No, there's no rebuttal. Like you think they're gonna be a 6-win team? I think they're gonna be a 3-win team.
Better.
They're not gonna make the play.
I think they're gonna be.
They're not gonna make. They're not going to make the playoffs. There's nothing to talk about with this team. Let's talk about the last team in this division that's actually interesting, the Los Angeles Chargers. Timmy, what do you think about the Los Angeles Chargers season this year?
I have them third in their division, also at 9-8, just missing the playoffs. I think at worst we're going to see a 7-win team here. At best, we probably see a 10-win team. I think they're going to miss the playoffs. I think they're going to run the football a lot. I don't think this is a year that they can win anything. They don't have a lot of talent on offense other than Herbert. So I do think this is a middle of the pack team. I think when the definition of average, this is the definition of average. A team right on the cusp of the playoffs. They're not terrible, but they're not great. They're not. Yeah, that's my take.
So I'll bounce right off of that. I completely agree with you. I have them at 8 and 9. So I have them roughly around there. I think they're going to be anywhere between a 7 and 10 win team. They don't have any elite. Unless you want to try to call Justin Herbert elite, which I don't, because I think elite's a smaller course. I think that they have no elite group. I think that they have some borderline-ish elite players, like Asante Samuel Jr. is very good. Derwin James is very good, obviously. Joey Bosa is very good. Khalil Mack, we'll see if he can rekindle what he had last year. Obviously, he's getting older. But, the offensively, they've got Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt. So, if those tackles, they can say they're elite at tackle, especially if Joe Alt can become what we think he's going to. We can say they're elite there, but otherwise, they've got a good basis. And they're like an upgraded Patriots in the sense for me. I want to see their team have flashes. I want to see them go into maybe KC and have a really close game. I want to see them maybe go on the road and have a win against a tougher opponent. I want to see Jim Harbaugh. I want to see Jim Harbaugh really put his stamp and imprint on this team, really build an identity for this team. And then next year, get a few pieces in the offseason, tool, get a couple more weapons, see if maybe Ladd McConkey can develop whatever, get pieces, and then truly make a playoff push next year. I think this is your rebuild year to go on, and maybe they could do a Seahawks thing where in a rebuild year they can sneak into the playoffs. Maybe. But I got them 8 and 9.
Very much agree with what Tim said when he said their floor is 7 and 10, but they're probably going to veer towards 9 and 8, maybe even 10 and 7. I actually have this team at 10 and 7. Look, they have the second easiest schedule. They have an incredibly easy start to their season. And I get it. You don't have a lot of A-list talent on the offensive side of the ball. But what you do have is a real-life, living, breathing head coach. Not only that, an elite head coach. I don't think there is a such thing as a rebuild year when it comes to Jim Harbaugh, when it comes to either one of the Harbaugh brothers here, but specifically Jim Harbaugh. I think this becomes a playoff team. I think all these games that would be in question, these one-score games that would be fucked up by Brandon Staley, again, you're going to have a living, breathing, able-bodied head coach that's going to be able to make real-life decisions. And on top of that, you do have someone who borders on being elite. I think Justin Herbert has all the tools of being elite. There's not a throw he can't make. He's mobile. The only question you have really this year about him is, can he stay healthy because he's coming in with plantar fasciitis? Outside of that, the easy schedule, on top of everything being more manageable, this team is going to be, like Tim said, they're going to run a lot, right? So it's going to be a simplified game.
They did get Taylor Heineke, too.
Did they got Heineke as a backup?
They got Heineke today, so
that could factor in. That could factor in.
It's good.
But you give me the combo of an easy
Lets you know
schedule.
that Herbert's a little bit more, maybe a little bit more hurt than possible. Not that it's like the end of the world, but obviously going in with Easton Sticks, not a great decision. So getting a better quarterback, that's perfectly fine. But at the same time, you could tell that they're a little bit questionable on the health of Justin Herbert too, like we all are. But we'll see. We know it's an injury that can flare up throughout the season.
Sure, exactly. It's a flare-up type of injury. So nothing, in football, nothing's guaranteed anyway, but especially with this injury. But I think you give me the combo of an easy schedule and Jim Harbaugh replacing Brandon Staley. It's like a substitute teacher to like a principal type thing. You know what I mean? Like it's night and day. Brandon Staley, we once seen him call a timeout to give the Raiders an opportunity to make a field goal to tie the game. Like, Brandon Staley should never like even touch a Madden game ever again, let alone a real football team. Like he shouldn't be in control of the high school football
Be able to play
team.
Madden. Like you should.
He should not be able to coach.
Like you should sit down with every coach, and if you can play a game of Madden, then I could probably trust you, because then that means you know at least somewhat of of clock management down the stretch. And if I watch you play Madden and you have no clock management, unfortunately, you can't be our coach. And I'm not kidding. Like I might implement that, because a lot of these coaches need to play Madden to get some time management.
Listen, we talk about what Antonio Pierce could be. We talk about what Sean Payton hypothetically could do with a franchise that's not in the best spot. This is a middle of the pack franchise who already has a top 10 quarterback and immediately has, in my opinion, a top 5 head coach. I mean, it ain't going to be a rebuild. And even if it was a rebuild year, the schedule lends it to automatically 7 wins. They should, in my opinion,
retool.
What's up?
Retool.
No, I know what you got.
More like a retool. No, I'm just saying more retool than rebuild.
I completely feel what y'all mean.
Quarterback, coach, tackle. And so those are the 3 things you want offensively. You build around it. Defensively, you've got a corner, you've got a rusher, you've got someone. You need to get someone more in the middle, because they don't really have greatness. And Denzel Perryman's okay, but like, yeah.
And look, here's the thing. I mentioned this a couple weeks back when we were talking football. I forget what the episode was exactly, but it was our tiers list. With Harbaugh, everything that we could say about the Chargers right now, we could have said about the Niners before his stint, and we didn't even feel nearly as good about their quarterback position as we do now. Alex Smith wasn't even nearly viewed how he is viewed now, as like a serviceable game, above average quarterback. You can credit a lot of the late career success that Alex Smith had from his middle career on, I should say, to his late career, to Jim Harbaugh. You pair that with Herbert, and if he at all gets his foot right this year, if he can at all just get that foot to even 80, 85%, I mean, this is a team that really, truly could challenge for that division and give KC problems, even with this roster not having top-end talent. If they can stack up the wins early, it's going to be a lot like that Giants season we saw with, what's his name? Well, I forget his name. Brian Dable. That first year with Daniel Jones, they had a very weak schedule. They had an okay defense. They didn't have anything on offense. I think this Chargers team has more on offense than what they have. They got a good offensive line, and they got, again, an elite coach, a bordering on elite quarterback.
I would take Saquon over every player on this offense. I'll tell you that. I don't think they have the quarterback.
Sure, but I mean, outside of Saquon, they didn't have shit. They didn't have any receivers. The line was okay, and I agree. Saquon obviously is an elite talent, but I mean, cumulatively, I would take this offense over the Giants' offense and what they had.
I have nothing else to add to that. I think we all made very good points on the Chargers. So, yeah. I mean, we're splitting this up within. What's up?
Same question here, though. What question do you most want answered out of this division, between the Chiefs, between the Broncos and Raiders, and then the Chargers? What are you gonna have your eye on the most here?
I think I'm just looking for a team to kind of step up. I don't want to see the Chiefs just walk into a division win. Like, they could low key win this division at like 9 wins if this division is as chalk as people think it is. They can win this division at 9 wins. I don't want that to happen. I want competitiveness. I don't care about the Broncos. I get it. They're done for already. But I want to see some competitiveness from both the Chargers and the Raiders. And I think they can do it. So
I want to see MVP Mahomes have himself a special style season, and I want to see what he pulls out, because I think that all things are on the board. I think he might do whatever he wants to. I truly think the behind-the-back pass is coming out this year, and I don't think it's going to be a small one. I think it could be a few yard behind-the-back pass. That's one. And two, the other thing would be, I want to see what Devontae Adams is, because I think that Devontae Adams could be a guy who could be a trade piece. Maybe at some point we could hear him like a disgruntled wide receiver, and maybe someone could plunge and make a big trade for him. Devontae Adams is someone that I have circled depending on how this season goes for him, because he's getting older. The one thing he doesn't have is a Super Bowl, and he wants it.
I think I've really said mine. I mean, the fact that we get to see Herbert finally again with a real life head coach here, um, I think that's really what the division's going to hinge on here. If anybody at all can challenge KC, I mean, I wrapped it up with the Chargers saying the exact same thing. I think it's this team, and the schedule lends it to that. So, but in general, I do want to see what his development, what his decision making looks like under Harbaugh. Under Harbaugh, and yeah, just what they look like as as a legit franchise now. I think they got some legitimacy to them. So obviously, aside from Tim, we don't have any expectations for the Raiders or the Broncos. So for me, it would be how the Chargers can challenge.
Okay. Well, that was the AFC East and the AFC West as we were planning on it, getting deep into each one of these teams and being able to break down kind of what their seasons are going to look like. So everybody who's a fan of one singular team, we've talked about them, and we're going to continue to talk about all these other divisions. But we're going to be talking about the rest of the AFC here very soon. What's up?
Let's do a quick review of what we had here with the divisions, with the East and West.
I'll get right into it. We're going to be doing the rest of the AFC very soon here, and then we'll be branching out into the NFC soon. You guys will see these in parts. But right now, in the AFC East, Keenan, I had the Bills, the top of the division at 11-6, the Dolphins second at 10-7, the Jets third at 9-8, the Patriots at 5-12. Timmy, similar to me, had the Bills number 1 at 12-5, had the Jets number 2 at 10-7, had the Dolphins 3 at, you had the Dolphins 2 at 10-7, the Jets 3 at 10-7, my bad, and then the Patriots 4 at 5-12. Kyle had the Jets 1, had the Bills 2, Jets at 11-6, Bills at 10-7, 2, the Dolphins at 9-8, 3, and the Patriots at 5-12, 4. So Kyle had the Jets winning the division. Me and Timmy both had the Bills winning the division. And then AFC West, I had the Chiefs at 13-4. I had the Chargers at 8-9. I had the Raiders at 6-11 and had the Broncos at 3-14. Timmy had the Kansas City Chiefs at 11-6, had the Raiders at 9-8, had the Chargers at 9-8, and had the Broncos at 3-14. Needed to make sure I got it in the right order. Raiders are the second in the division. And then Kyle had the Chiefs at 11-6, the Chargers at 10-7, the Broncos at 6-11, and the Raiders at 4-13. That is overall the AFC East and the AFC West from Keenan, Kyle, and Timmy. You will see this in increments. You'll see this in parts, and we will be back here shortly giving you guys the AFC North, the AFC South, the rest of the NFC, and the rest of our playoff predictions, bold predictions, awards, of course, in lieu, waiting for the NFL season. This was the Warner Brothas Podcast. Thank you, Timmy, of course. Thank you, Kyle, of course. Keenan Warner here. We appreciate all of you guys, and we will see all of you guys very soon.